check, check. Check. Oh, it does monitor. Check, check. Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. We're just chilling and about to build a computer. Seeing things ready. Trying to get the sound stuff working right. Lower the music a little bit so you guys can hear us right. I could just sound check. I'm trying to figure out a way to get the mic to come through without like forcing you guys to hear our monitor and the mic, so it sounds like an echo all the time.
Okay, there we go.
I guess it'd be good if they could generally just hear what we're like hearing too. It doesn't really matter if I just mute the mic. I just feel like it won't hear us as well, and then it won't like drown out the noise. Which I need to go actually turn off the fans and stuff. I forgot.
Oh, I didn't even, I got so used to being on, I forgot it was on. But
Yeah,
it's much quieter in here now.
It's a 100 times quieter. Like absolute silence versus noise. Actually, I have a sound meter too. Actually.
Oh, nice.
Well, Chinese sound meters. Who knows the accuracy? It works.
Does it measure in decibels or something?
Yeah, it does.
That's pretty cool.
So we know that we're below sensitivity range. I wonder how much the fan does like contribute to sound, like noise pollution wise.
Sure, a good amount. The ones that you're running anyways.
I need to change those out. I went back to the one that came with the network box because it was freaking. It's a 120 volt like non-noise suppressed like just regular metal industrial fan.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure it keeps it cool though.
Definitely keeps it cool, but it's like the noisiest thing that I ever came across hardware-wise. I actually had another fan in there, but the bearing went out, so it started making clicking. Like, no, it's going. I don't bother with that because that's just worse than I could hear around the whole house. Like, out of all of a sudden, out of the silence, it'll be like somewhere from the random part of the house. Not having that. That was just too much. Yeah, let me go and get the headphone monitor back on. Maybe I can. Or we could just hear ourselves. Why not? Better to like be able to hear. Not hear yourself.
This one on?
I'll just like check. Check. Okay. Through. Check. It's not.
Check. I can hear myself just fine.
Yeah, but I wonder how well they could hear us in this format, like trying to hear ourselves. I think it'll be fine. Hey, Amy Wolfie, what's going on? She said, "Hey."
Hi.
So, since my music now playing is not working right, I'm just gonna play whatever song off my SoundCloud.
You can't just adjust that channel.
It's been so long, I've been out of my body with you.
It's just that computer sounds are so much louder than running stuff like this. I have to raise the volume on the actual mixer.
She took me to a place where my senses gave way. Turning round, shutting down what the people say. Climbing up, killing time, let it give you some. Take my hand and let it come, let it come. Take it back where she knows that you.
I'm just trying to think like what would work indefinitely on this format. I think you need to start building it. And I'll figure it out as we go.
Well, as long as everybody's okay with the level of music you're working on, I'm fine.
I'm sure they don't care.
I can talk over it.
Now we have stereo.
I was gonna say, now I'm on stereo.
That helps. Is it weird hearing yourself for the first time?
It's not the first time.
Yeah.
I work at a call center primarily, so.
Do they give you like kind of a little bit of feedback to hear yourself? Talk
Yeah,
to your
there's a
customer?
little bit of an echo.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, let's rip this up and put it together.
All right.
I'll move things around as we do it. Not to worry so much about the camera.
Okay, so the case is a Thermaltake Versa N21. It's a good budget case for what we're doing. guys can kind of see the side panel there.
Lift me up to the stars, we are coming home. I only got a taste, but we're out of time. We are songs.
I wonder how have I been like doing this by myself?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when someone's doing it.
So before we start building it, do you want to go over the specs? Well, start with the case. This is the thermal take case.
Going with a 600 watts there?
So we got a EVGA 600 watt. Alright. For the motherboard, we got the Gigabyte V85. Intel i5 4590. For the graphics card, 980 Ti. Hyper T4 cooler. And some cooler master fits. Western Digital hard drive, and I've got a SanDisk 120 gig SSD we're going to throw in. That's going to be the boot drive. So the first thing we're going to do is this wire.
Is there any tools you need? You need to grab like flips or anything? You need any tools?
I've got my screwdriver. Pretty much all I need. I'll get my. I've got some snips I use to cut zip ties, so I'll grab that in just a minute. You want to grab it right there in that tray underneath the hardware. Thanks.
We'll probably need a monitor at some point, right?
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. We will need a monitor.
Alright, I'll grab us a monitor. Actually, I have a monitor right here. It's a touchscreen too.
Okay.
Alright, I'll find some out.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to start routing the wires. I try to do a pretty good job with the wire management.
Should leave that screen up at all times.
So I'm just using 4-inch zip ties.
So again, it helps to do the case cables first.
I just kind of do it as I go. There's gonna be other cables that go in. We're gonna have the SATA cables. And then of course the power supply. So I just do them as I go.
Okay.
Ideally, if you're doing your own, you would want to kind of hook up everything on a table and bench test it first, just to make sure everything works. And then you would need to know, you would know at that point if you need to change anything. But usually at this point, I just go ahead and start putting the power supply in.
So you list your computers under a name. Was it?
Yeah, it's J3PC on Instagram and Facebook. It's just something I mostly do for fun. Second income.
Well, in turn, it allows people to get access to gaming computers and stream components. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Yeah, most of the ones I sell would be great for streaming or medium high gaming.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now, I'm just gonna rotate the case fan 90 degrees, and that's gonna help with wire management.
Okay.
This particular one only comes with one case fan on the back, but we've got 4 more that are gonna go in there.
Okay. You know, I actually found the 6th gen motherboard.
Did you?
Yeah, it was just sitting under a pile of stuff. But it's so tiny that I didn't realize it was that box. So,
Maybe one day I'll take that off your hands.
yeah. We're looking at some CPUs. I'm thinking about building 6th gen. Or I could just go to the little computer shop and flash the, 7th gen.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me. If you flash the BIOS, you can run a 7th-inch chip.
Yeah, a lot of 6th gen motherboards do have that capability. They just, you need to do it. You need to actually have a 6th gen CPU to make it happen. I think there's some companies that just takes the extra effort when they ship it out. They make sure that
It's got the newest BIOS on it.
yeah, you got the newest BIOS on it before they ship it out.
Yeah, this one's a 4th gen. It's one of my favorites because the price versus power value equation's all the way there. So I think they still hang really well with today's stuff. So on this build, the case, the power supply, the hard drive, the processor cooler, let's see, the fans and the fan splitters, those are all new parts.
Is there like a URL for Instagram? Is JV3?
It's it's JJJ_PC. And that's just got some of the more recent builds that I've done. So with the power supply, I generally go ahead and pull all the wires where they need to go before I actually screw it down. That's one thing I'm really kind of neurotic about, is making sure that the wire management's done right.
Yeah. I mean, in the long run, that definitely helps with cooling for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
You don't want any air obstructions.
Well, and it also helps it look nice too.
Yeah, this is a window. Okay, so definitely show.
So the side
Yeah,
piece.
yeah. Made disappear. Oh yeah. That's enough to see the graphic card.
Yeah. You can see. There we go. So now you can kind of see, looks like a big mess, but as we start zip tying it down, it'll clean itself up.
It's 2019. Our watch now needs to be charged. I'm like, I need to track time. Oh crap, my battery's dead on my watch.
I'm rocking an analog there.
It's the best way. people talk about my smartwatch lasts a week.
I never got into the smartwatch thing. I just think they look goofy, at least on me.
It definitely helps with like looking at my phone less with the notifications and all that, but yeah, it still needs charging.
I always kind of wanted one so I could feel like a Power Ranger or something.
I do sometimes do my TV controls on my watch.
Okay.
Like I can't find my remote. Modern conveniences, first world problems.
Alright, so usually at this point, I go ahead and start putting the motherboard in. Nice shiny new Gigabyte board.
You already have thermal paste, or is it already like pre?
No, I got some. It's in one of my boxes in the tray. I always carry extra. Go ahead and pop the I/O shield in there. It's a good idea to go ahead and get that out of the way, because if you don't and you go to try to install the motherboard, you gotta backtrack.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky sometimes to make that vertical thing.
I just...
Oh god, it got tighter. Let me get a screwdriver and fix that.
I got one. A flat tip?
Yeah, just a flathead.
Right here? There we go.
You know what's funny, I actually do have another one of those cameras.
Yeah.
And I could actually add another transition to that camera. If we need that, definitely need to happen. Alright. Oh no. I should start pulling some mods in. Do you think for an unlocked PC situation, it would definitely still help to like have a liquid cooling, even AIO?
In my opinion, we're talking about if we're not overclocking or if we're overclocking.
But not for overclock, because I don't have an unclocked CPU, but like my CPU is struggling, right?
So here's the thing, on this one, this one's an i5 4590, so it's not unlocked.
Yeah.
There's still ways to overclock it, but in my opinion, I think that most of the all-in-one liquid cooler systems that are out there, I really feel like it's really more for show and for bragging rights.
Yeah.
When you consider like what a good air cooler can do, the best air coolers will hang with like the middle of the road water coolers. So in most cases, if you're not overclocking, you're really probably just throwing money out the window. But they do look cool, and it's kind of nice to be able to tell your friends that you have it. But yeah, on mine personally, I use air coolers on it.
Well, because of my limited case space, I do have a very small cooler. Maybe that's what I need, is more surface area, more heat dispersion.
The big mistakes I think a lot of people make with air cooling, or with any cooler for that matter, is that what I've seen and what I've done in the past, like what I've had to learn, is that a lot of people either use way too much thermal paste, or they've done silly stuff like there's a sticker on the bottom of this here, and if you forget to take that off, and this one's pretty blatantly obvious, but I've seen it before where people have forgotten to do stuff like that, and of course your cooling doesn't work.
Yeah,
and
melted plastic is definitely an insulator.
that's an easy one, but and also picking a good cooler. So there's a big difference between what something like this will do versus the stock Intel cooler. So this actually has heat pipes, and what happens is that the top of that CPU chip heats up. It's gonna send that heat up into this complex heat sink, and this fan's gonna blow that air out, right? And it's a much larger surface area that you're working with. So this is gonna cool much better than the factory Intel chip. Now, if you're gaming, this is important. If you're editing videos, this is important. If you're just doing Microsoft Word and Office and stuff like that, it's probably not necessary. But for strenuous gaming, absolutely. So what I'm doing now, you got these 4 mounting holes. I don't know if you can see those real well. You got 1, 2, and then 3 and 4, and those are actually for the cooler. Some of the stuff out of the way here. And the T4 itself is a pretty decent air cooler. There's one that's a little bit more popular that Cooler Master makes, and that's the Hyper 212 Evo. But again, if you're not overclocking, do you really need all that? And I think this one does just fine. So let's put that there. See that really well. I think you actually had it better than I did. So, gotta refresh my memory on which hardware you use for this one. It's been a while since I've used one. Intel. So you're gonna use these on top. There should be 4 in the package. I'd already opened this because I had to borrow hardware from another kid. I use a lot of these different Cooler Master coolers. Another word of the wise, when your motherboard's being stored, put that plastic cover or the processor in there to keep those pins from getting bent. On the AMD board, you gotta worry about the actual processor. On the Intel board, you gotta worry about these pins inside. So we're actually going to go ahead and drop that in now, just to prevent a catastrophic failure later. You definitely want to keep your fingers off the contacts on the bottom here the whole time. Drop that in there like that. There's grooves on either side. And then don't let this slam, just kind of go underneath slowly and keep steady force. Alright, now it's safe. Just make sure all those are just finger tight. They don't have to be cranked on. And then we get our brackets. These brackets just kind of lay across, like so. Okay.
Yeah, my Rocketfish cooler, it definitely isn't that nice.
Is that for the micro build?
Yeah, it's for my little mini build that's running this stream right now.
Uh-oh, looks like they shorted me one. I guess it's a good thing I have. I guess it's a good thing I have spares. So.
Well, I guess they gave you extras in the past.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have hardware from other builds, so I'm sure I have another one floating around.
It's funny. It's like they're bringing the original mounts back.
Yeah. I think the LGA 775s had these, didn't they?
Yeah. Where you have to like use a flathead, hope you don't scrape your motherboard and destroy it.
I think we'll need that. That's the clamp. And there's some one-time use thermal paste. We'll just use that and get rid of that. Finally.
Oh, so it comes with some thermal paste and that.
Yeah, generally most of the Cooler Master ones, like the T4, will come with something like this. It's a one-time use. You probably don't even need all of it that's in there. Your 212 Evos and stuff, they actually come with a syringe that you use. So it's reusable. Actually, you don't even use a fraction of it. Alright, so... That other bolt is in here somewhere, and I will find it, or I'll find a suitable replacement. So, talking about the syringes, this is what usually comes with the 212 Evo. You can also buy a bigger one off eBay or Amazon. Transfer game until I find one. This is why I keep spares.
So, how many how many computers do you have listed right now?
Right now, I have one that's really basic that I've got listed.
Yeah.
But this is I actually just sold. I had two last week that sold.
Yeah.
So aside from that, this would be the only other one that I've got listed right now.
Might get snagged up pretty quick.
Yeah, no, it's gonna, this one's gonna be great for a wide variety of different uses. We're gonna probably use this as a placeholder for now. Wide variety of different uses, whether you want it to be for like developing or editing or gaming, a wide variety of different games. It should play, when we get done with it, it should play most games on at least high settings. There's some newer stuff out there that might kind of push it, but the 980 Ti is a really solid card. It's got 6 gigabytes of VRAM, and can keep up with some of the newer stuff too. It's presently 2 generations old, but still a great option all the way around. I just want to be double sure before we move on that I don't have a spare nut there for that.
I need to go grab my tablet PC, try to draw out the audio routing while I'm thinking about it.
This will probably be better. Yeah, sometimes building computers, sometimes you have to improvise, at least to get it going. No, but I found something that I can use instead of it that'll work a little bit better. We'll make it work. Big thing is that it's just important that that cooler makes contact on here. So we'll go ahead and apply the thermal paste.
Everything is new to me, sleepless in a distant dream, slowing up the speed of time. Don't let me crash down tonight. I just wanna feel.
It's probably way too much, but it will be enough.
I want to like kind of apply the satire, like put the whole packet on. Don't do that, you guys.
Yeah, if you put, the thing is, if you put too much, it actually will make higher temperatures sometimes. So, especially with your AMD chips that are out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. Yeah, so with this, I usually like to get this first side on. And we can move the fan around. That's not a big deal. This pops off. So there's a whole argument for push versus pull on what's better. We won't get into that here, but you can move it.
Stronger than the both of us. Together we can spark a flame and freeze the world to know.
So once all that's on there, just snap it down. That is fairly tight, but it's not centered. So that's important. What we're going to do in this case, we'll flip it around because the fans actually get in the way of this class. We don't have to worry about flipping the fan. A lot tighter, and it's centered. So when you get done, when you get all that mounted up, you should see block cooling block there should be pretty centered on that processor card. If you go to the other side, you should see the same amount of meat. There we go. It's nice and flush there. So another cool thing about this particular processor, or this CPU cooler, is that it's a little bit more narrow than your Hyper 212 Evo. So if you look here, you can actually see right there, it still gives us enough room to put RAM in without having to take that fan off. It should fit in there, it might be kind of snug. But with an Evo, we might run into clearance problems here because of how close Gigabyte actually put these RAM slots to the CPU port there, to the CPU socket.
That is some tight clearance.
This is a micro ATX board, and it's actually one of the more narrow micro ATX boards. But what this is basically doing, this is allowing you to use a much smaller case. So like if you've got a micro ATX case, it can be shorter, and it still has a lot of the necessities people want. It's got your USB 3.0, it's got 6 SATA headers right here. A couple of them are high speed, and it still has your 2 PCI X1 slots here, your PCI Express, and then of course the one for the graphics card. So it's still got pretty much most of what you need on here. Obviously with the B series board, you're not getting the overclocking tools that you would get with a Z series board, but definitely a good board. And Gigabyte boards, I think, have come a long way. So now, go ahead and make some room here, and I'm going to lay this case down so you guys can see what we see. You just want to be careful. A couple of things. You want to be careful that you don't scratch up your case, and you also don't want to scratch up your table. At this point, it's kind of unavoidable that you're going to be laying the system on wires, and that's okay. Just center this up here a little bit. So this particular board, this case I should say, this one already has standoffs built in most of the spots that you're going to need it. So what I like to do is I kind of like to do a quick test fit just to see if everything lines up and see what you need. So here's my mic here. Sometimes with these micro ATX boards, like you can see at the bottom, the standoffs are not there because most of these cases people end up putting ATX boards in, which is a full size. So in this case, we're actually going to have to add some standoffs or remove some standoffs. So I'm actually just going to take some out of my parts kit and just put them in real quick. And there's 2 different size standoff depending on the case. So just make sure you use the right one. If you need a lot of resistance trying to thread it in, it's probably the wrong one. If it falls out, it's probably the wrong one. Alright, so once we get this far, we know that as soon as we screw it down, it'll be good to go. I do like to go ahead. I like to go ahead and run the 8-pin power connector so that it's in there. And then we can put them up. The rest will be pretty easy. So you just have to be patient with the wires. Your fan wires, your power supply wires, some of them are going to get in the way, certain steps. You just have to be patient and try not to force anything. This particular one we need 6 screws. I like black just because a magnetic screwdriver is definitely a big help. That way if you drop one, which you will, you can very easily fish it out. Right? So I'm going to bring my magnetics, so I'm just going to have to be careful. So I think I actually used the wrong size screw on this one. There's 2 different threads of screws, and there's 2 different size standoffs. Hopefully I didn't try to crank it in there.
You could probably pull the standoffs from the lower ones.
No, they're the same. They're what is it, the M3 thread or whatever, the bigger one.
Actually, this one's kind of not all the way in. Maybe this is what it's causing it.
Well, sometimes these, I think this is the correct thread. It's just the case, the way that they tap the thread. They don't go all the way in right away sometimes, so that's okay.
Have I ever showed you the standoff tool? That
I just use a socket at home. Do you have a special tool for that?
it's a hex to a what's it called? It's a socket to a Phillips. So you can use a Phillips driver to move your standoffs.
So yeah, the standoffs themselves have the larger thread, but it uses the smaller thread screws.
Which is ironic, but I think that's like a thing so that people don't accidentally like just screw it directly into the freaking case. I just can see people do that.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed is that, like, okay, so that standoff is different. That's just like that on both sides. One thing I have noticed is that some of your more expensive cases will have the heavier duty. They'll have the heavier duty standoffs, and you'll have to use the heavier duty screws. And then also too, I forgot to mention the actual case itself is gonna come with a hardware kit, and I usually don't even bother opening it because I usually just use hardware out of my box. But if you're curious, you can literally just open this up and take one out of here, and you know it'll be the same as all the other ones. Thermaltake's one of the better companies about making sure they give you enough spares. Cooler Master's another one that does a really good job. So I'm actually, just to make it easier on myself, I'm actually going to go ahead and get these fans installed from the top. So on the Thermaltake case here, there's not really a great way to take the front panel off to get to those spaces. You kind of just have to pull it. There's individual tabs. Here on the front, inside this lip. But this is it's only a $55, $60 case, so it's not the best. So I usually just kind of start at one corner, and just kind of gently pull once you kind of get one corner off there, the rest of it just kind of comes off with it. One thing I like about the Thermaltake case is that there's no wiring attached to the front panel, so that makes it super easy to work on. Get those front fans installed. Grab those. These are Coolant Master sleeve bearing 120 millimeter. They call them silent case fans. They're definitely not silent, but they are quiet for what you pay for. There's also, you have arrows here that kind of tell you which way the air is flowing, so just kind of keep that in mind.
Oh, I like that. They added holograms for aerodynamics.
Yeah, so generally the hologram goes on, like that's where the air is coming from, and the Cooler Master logo there, that's where the air is going to. That's just how I remember it, but if you forget, again, you just refer to where the arrows are and it'll give you an idea.
There's arrows imprinted on the side if you guys are ever wondering the direction of airflow and the spin of the fan.
Now, one thing that's specific about this this Thermaltake case is that you don't use your standard case fan screws that come with it to mount it to the front of the case. It actually has these long screws here that you use.
Oh, the case itself is threaded for those.
Yeah, so it's different. And I don't think they give you enough either for this, so I think you have to double up, so you can use 2 per, and I just make them, I just install them, adjacent from each other.
What is, so they have a proprietary method and don't give you enough screws for it.
It's not proprietary. I know Corsair does it too. I think a lot of them are actually doing it now, where they use this smaller thread to attach the fans to the front mount, or front of the case, but then Cooler Master, Thermaltake, for whatever reason, used to only give you enough to do 2 screws per fan. Let's see, we're gonna get there and see if they've changed that, because I've done several of these cases, and that's what I've ran into in the past, that they put 4 screws for 2 fans, basically.
They should at least provide 2 pads if you're gonna be limited to 2 screws.
Well, let's see. I don't want to throw Thermaltake under the bus yet.
Let's see where we go.
We'll get there and see how many we've got left. So there's 4. See if there's any more in there. I see 1. All right. So maybe they changed it. Maybe they got enough complaints, or maybe it was just me. Maybe the ones I got were poorly QC'd or something. But this one actually does. So. Definitely has all 4. Now on the top, you're still going to use
regular.
You're going to use the regular case fan screws.
Okay.
And I'll bring the camera around so you guys can see. Just turn the case. You see what I'm talking about here. So you've got these longer screws that go in here all the way around. And these don't need to be super tight, just snug. They're not going anywhere, you're not fork them down, just make sure they're snug. Alright, so those are good. Now the tricky part is the top panel, because the top panel has the wiring on it. Careful here. Again, start at one corner and just kind of push up as you go around. I probably should cut these off. I should have done this part first.
Let's get to the real.
That's okay. It only saves me 2 zip ties. It's free now. Push as we go around. You can see it's kind of starting to lift up there. Just really careful so that we don't break anything.
Snaps always get me.
That side's loose all the way. There we go. and it didn't go flying. So that's progress. And you can see, get the camera down here. We've got these, you got this ledge. Now you could actually install, Justin, you were talking about a all-in-one cooler. This is where you would put your all-in-one cooler in my
Yeah, like a
opinion.
radiator.
Yeah, if you're gonna put a radiator in there, you would put it in the spot.
It's interesting they have it lifted so you can fit a radiator nicely.
Because if you didn't, it would basically cover up your either your 8-pin on the motherboard, or it would block the fans from being able to be connected to the fan ports. Last two case fans here. Now the front ones are intake fans, and usually what I like to do with the top ones, obviously you want to make those exhaust. Just the way I do it. There's plenty of people on the forums that'll tell you that they do things their way, and they'll give you reasons, but it's just how I do it. Oh, thank you. Just enough to hold it there. Again, I usually put the screws in across from each other diagonally just to hold the fan in place until I'm ready to tighten everything down for good. That way you can position everything where you want it to go. And again, with these case fan screws, you don't need to crank them on. Another thing I try to do, I try to put the wires so they face each other. See that there. You can see the wires are kind of pointing in, kind of a V shape. You got it? Thank you. Make sure they start at a 90-degree angle. Maybe if we ever do this again, I'll bring a all-in-one liquid cooler. I've got one at the house actually.
Yeah.
I'd like to save that for a more expensive build. Not that this one's not nice or it's not going to be, decent price, but I'd like to save that for like a higher end i7, or maybe there might be some overclocking with the Z series board.
Yeah.
Also too, one thing I like to try to do is I like to keep these fans touching each other before I tighten them down. That way they don't rattle. The harmonics when the fan spins can cause it to move a little bit and cause the plastic to flex.
Noise suppression is a key key component.
And this will start going much faster in just a few minutes once we get all this in. It seems like a lot of work, but a lot of it is just because we're recording it. So. Looks like it might have got bent during the manufacturing process. Doesn't have to be perfect.
I might have to replace all the Studio Cat 5s.
What's wrong with them?
They're pre-done. I usually terminate my own cables, and these are not. And I'm feeling like they don't have consistent data. It might be that my network's kind of messed up. I need to update some stuff. I have a very like custom network. I just had to go for the very custom hardware and
Well,
the
that's-
price to pay.
That's all the stuff that's in that rack over there, right?
Yeah, there's a price to pay for going all like your control, your way. Like if I want to do a VPN, I gotta do it manually. Open up all the ports and stuff. I mean, I guess that's more secure in the long run of the day. But what is secure really?
Your studio is much more elaborate than my office's, that's for sure. I'm just running a modem and a router.
That Ubiquity's like what's it called it? There's like the SFP like options for like fiber and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't even have a second internet like that or anything.
So it's got a backup circuit connection. So
Yeah,
if
it
you have
has
a-
the option to do failover. I kind of wanted to do like an LTE failover at some point.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I
Yeah.
ran 75 gigabytes on my last internet bill, but I got up to 1,000 or 100 gigabytes of hotspot through Sprint.
Oh, I see.
It's only $30 to up from 50 to 100 gigs, so I was thinking like maybe I'll just put my spare phone as like a modem, so not convert to a USB device to a cat or something like that. Something of that nature.
Yeah, I think a backup circuit. Woo! That was just my mod. I think a backup circuit is a great idea for definitely if you have a business.
Didn't crack? Ah, that's
No, these for whatever reason this little tank I've had really good luck with. I've bent it a lot, but I haven't cracked it yet.
my last tank, or the glass that came with the bubble to make it more volume. I dropped it at a club while dancing. Definitely went.
Yeah, that's always a bad day. That's another thing too. Like when you're vaping, you kind of have to be prepared because the alternative, if it's in the middle of the night and you're not prepared, is you have to go buy back cigarettes, and nobody wants to do that.
This is undoing a whole bunch of time, for sure.
All right, so the top's done. Go ahead and button this up here. Those are pretty tight; they're not going anywhere. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and put the front panel back on too. So I'm not doing an optical drive with this one. Most of my builds I don't even bother. Just go one direction with it. And that's done. But this one does have the option if you want to go do an optical drive. You have that. It's got this door here that opens up.
Swing doors. I haven't seen a swing style in a minute.
Man, some of them have it on there and you just never see people use it.
Yeah, I guess no one uses real optical drives nowadays, so.
So we're gonna lay this back down again, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop that motherboard in, and the rest of it should kind of come together. So awesome. So with these fan wires here, I usually try to tuck these down underneath, just to make sure they go under the motherboard, because that is a huge pain. Just try to make sure all the wires that need to be out of the way are out of the way. So when we drop the motherboard in, everything's pretty seamless. With this, it's okay if you want to go ahead and plug your fan in here, your CPU fan. This one's super easy, it's right there on the edge. That way that's done, this out of the way, and then when we're done we can actually tuck this in down here where you don't see it as much. Alright. Alright, so in this case we don't have a lot of clearance, so I'm actually going to go ahead and attach the 8-pin first. Just make sure the clasps on both sides are locked, and they are. be all we have to do there. I do like to kind of take note at this point of where the actual fan connectors are for the case fans. I'm seeing one here on the bottom. It says system fan. And then on the rest of the motherboard, I think that's actually going to be it on this one. I think it just has that one fan header. So we'll have to see. We'll get to that in a minute. Generally, the larger boards are going to have 3 or 4, and the smaller boards are going to have 1, 2, sometimes 3. This one I don't see another fan header on. We'll go ahead and keep moving. So right now we have 5 case fans. There is a label on each one of your case fans here that tell you the amperage of each fan. The Cooler Masters, I'm 99% sure, are 0.15. This one's 0.18. So if you do the math, right, you're allowed to have, I think the standard is 1 amp per fan header. So if the Cooler Master ones are 0.15, 4 of those, and you have a 0.18 from the Thermaltake that came with the case, we're still well below that 1 amp threshold. So we're good. We can actually run all these fans off of one header with splitters. Alright, so at this point now, we'll go ahead and finish. Install all these screws. And again, magnetic screwdriver is definitely preferred in case you're dropping. Do you have a magnetic screwdriver hanging around? Yeah. Mind if I borrow it? I grabbed the wrong one on the way out today. Because that top corner one's going to be fun. I'm not saying I can't do it, but don't want to chance it. Oh, that's awesome. It's got that big extension on there too. Awesome.
See if that's
Yeah, let's see.
magnetized first. Just gotta double check.
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope.
Hold on. Maybe that little extension.
Well, there are ways around it though. Yeah, I think it's going to be best to... What you don't want to do is you don't want to drop a screw in there and then forget about it and not come back and fix it. While we're doing that, we'll go ahead and drop the RAM in.
Here's the magnetized.
Oh, you got one?
Yep.
Cool. Right. Very carefully. Again, you just have to be snug. You don't want to crank them in there so hard that it seizes into the standoff. You just need to be snug. It's actually grounded through the 12-volt connector. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the RAM in now. And this is just some, it's 2 8-gig sticks of OEM RAM. I put some made in China heat spreaders on there just for looks, just so that it kind of matches. These heat spreaders don't really do much anyways on RAM. So it's going to be snug because that fan's right there. That's okay. There we go. Just make sure they're fully seated. That part's good. All right, so everything is done here. All the screws are in. We've got 6 screws. The 12-volt connector is attached. We can start doing our wire management part now. This is the time-consuming part. I won't bore everybody and do too much of it. What kind of time limit are we on today? When do you want to be done?
We're not in no rush, so take your time, make the computer right.
Just gonna tighten that up just a little bit there. Just get a little more resistance. There we go.
Maybe the what do you call it, the heat sinks may take benefit from them being inside the fans, you know.
What's that?
Since the fan's so close to the RAM, might cool it down.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tight fit. That motherboard's actually made for a much smaller case, but it was brand new, old stock, and I got it for a pretty good deal. And they're good boards. The ones I've used in the past have been good. Had good luck with the D85 chipset.
Yeah.
For these 4th gens. So, and like I said, the 4th gen gigabyte boards that I've used have all been good. So.
I was actually thinking of upgrading my setup to a new, I think, thermal take. They made a nice small case that's kind of my style with 3 glass panes. I want a glass. I'm tired of my acrylic getting scratched up. I took my rig out to DJ on New Year's, and it tumbled around in my friend's, trunk.
Yeah, that's one thing I always seem to forget about the tempered glass. It's a big advantage is that it doesn't scratch as easy. It's much harder than acrylic. So you can tell, like, if you're looking at over at your buddy's house and you look at their build and you can see the glass panels all beat up, it's probably because they've been taking it out to play. And more and more of these cases are coming with tempered glass. I did one of my last builds I did is a cheaper Cougar case. Yeah. And it has a tempered glass panel. I sold that one earlier this week.
Dude,
last week.
It's like acrylics just scratch up too easily. Here it is, the V20.
So right now, guys, I'm putting in the 24 pin. It can be kind of a pain because you've got the extra 4 pin that has to go on at the same time. Once you get the keys lined up, it's pretty good. There we go. Once I get that one done, then it's okay to start connecting all the rest. At this point, because our board is a micro board, we've got all this extra room to route wires. At this point, it's okay to go ahead on a micro board with the big case to go ahead and tie down your power supply. Oh, did it? Wait, hold it.
There you go.
There's a lot of adjustment points on those cameras.
Can't imagine what other people do. Bigger studios, they definitely have like the full like DSLR video camera on trusses and all that.
Can't
I'm like,
imagine.
I don't know how you people can do
Can't
that.
imagine how much money they have tied up in that stuff.
I mean, if you have the sponsors, why not?
Yeah, no kidding.
They're like, burn our money, just to mention our name.
So both of these cameras are running the feed at the same time.
Yep. Pretty much what's on the program side, this side is what you see. That's the live side. Preview.
So some of your smaller, your cheaper cases aren't going to have the best provisions built in for wire management, but you can get enough of it where you can do what you need to do. So we know we're going to use, we have a SATA hard drive, a Western Digital, and we have a SATA SSD. So we need just 2 of those connectors. We don't have an optical, so as long as we lay one of those aside, we can zip tie the rest up. We don't need it. This is front panel stuff, so that's going to feed in through here somewhere. And then the front mount fans, got those that are going to come this way too. So we have a total of 5 fans, and we're going to go ahead and set those splitters up in there. I'm going to miss. Thankfully it's off camera.
Have you seen this case before?
I think I've seen it. That one's nice.
Yeah,
Does
just-
that use a regular, like a micro ATX?
Yeah. Just my style.
Yeah, those box cases are getting a lot more popular. There's one that I'm really interested in trying. I think I showed you I think it's made by CyberPower.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a console. It kind of reminds me of the old Alienwares. I'm interested in doing one of those builds. So it's just something about having a powerhouse computer in a small package that, you know, I can still have desk space and.
Well, if I had like a full tower and to lug that back and forth around the studio in my room, that's gonna be a doozy for me.
But
I mean,
for people that are just gaming, you know, if they just have a really simple setup in their office or game room, then yeah, a
yeah,
tower
if it's
is
stationary,
ideal
that's
'cause
great.
they're inexpensive and parts are plentiful.
Yeah.
So
I just remember back in the day, you used to put handles on like big rigs. Like, oh, we're gonna go to a LAN party, right?
yeah.
Like we ever took it to a LAN party like that. For the 1-2 times you're gonna go to your friend's house.
I don't think I've ever used this many splitters in one build because I've always had more than one fan header.
The splitters come with the fan?
No, so I buy these splitters. I just buy a big bunch of these things.
Yeah.
Um,
I think this is the tricky thing with the other, like a lot of the older motherboards, is that they don't have enough fan headers for what people demand nowadays.
Well, and then like, so ideally, most people with that micro board would probably be happy or good to go with, you know, one front fan, a top fan, and a back fan. We'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
But we have a 600 watt power supply. We got more than enough juice. We're not killing the amperage on that fan header, so we should be okay.
Fan headers on this side.
It's on that side. Okay. We're just
Right
pulling
above.
it through just to get slack out of it to get it out of the way. And that way I can start routing stuff around where it needs to go. So I usually start with the ATX cable first and kind of figure out where that needs to go and then zip tie everything around that. So as I said, we have the one SATA cable we're going to use and then our graphics card. So we have a 980 Ti, which I'm pretty sure the 980 Ti uses a 6-pin and an 8-pin, if memory serves, so we're about to find out. This is actually a reference
Ooh.
card. So yeah, this one actually has a 6-pin and an 8-pin. So it's, you know, for its time, this is 2 generations old now, but that was one of the heavier, power-hungry cards that were out there. So you can actually set this aside for right now. Just needed to know what we needed. So we just need 1 cable for that. We do not, in this build, need a Molex cable for anything that I'm aware of, so we're just going to zip tie that down. And we don't need the other SATA. So we're just going to zip tie those together just to get them out of the way. Route these where they need to go. This one's going to go these are going to go front panel. This is a good time to go ahead and do the USB 3.0. USB 3.0 you want to be careful with, because if those pins get bent, you're going to have a bad day. Take your time.
Crazy how much finer new technology gets.
And I just kind of slightly bend the wire so that it's not keeping too much tension on that USB connector. It's better to kink the wire than for it to keep pressure on the connector. Alright. So go ahead and put the hard drive in and the SSD.
That's what I never thought about.
What's that?
If I change this other case, how am I gonna route my USB in the front panel? But I mean, this has 2 more ports than my current case that I can use, and then my current USB is a cheap case, so the USB ports are finicky. So, in that turn, I'm actually gaining the USB ports I never had anyways.
I gotcha. Yeah.
How big of a drive are you putting on this one?
1 terabyte, yeah, just 1 terabyte. And 1 terabyte's enough for most people. If you wanted to get more, you could always run an external or the boot drive. I got a pretty good deal on a bunch of SSDs that were tested good. So I usually just throw a 120 in there for the boot drive. Tell the customer, you know, hey, you got enough space for 1 or 2 games, and then everything else can get stored on the hard drive.
Yeah.
And it gives them the opportunity for Windows to boot up much faster. Definitely worth it. Any size SSD is better than no SSD, in my opinion.
Have you ever had a customer that requested for upgrades for their purchase?
Yeah, I've had people bring them back all the time. Like they decide, hey, I got into this. I just wanted to kind of get my feet wet in it, and I decided that I wanted to play this new game that came out, and I want to play it on max settings. So I've had several people bring them back to put, a better graphics card in it or something like that.
So you can always bring it back and get an upgrade.
And I'm going to go ahead and grab the one for the SSD.
So this does have an SSD?
Yeah, this build's going to have a SanDisk Z410. It's 120 gig.
Oh, so this is already purchased.
No, it's going to go out for sale.
Okay.
Nobody's bought it yet.
So where does the 3.5 go on this? I guess up here?
What's that?
Your SSD will go up here?
No, I usually put it in the bottom just so they can get to. There's actually...
oh, there is. I see.
Audience can actually see there's actually a spot for the SSD here.
Okay.
So, I generally don't put them there unless I'm asked to. It's really easy to do. I like to put them all in one spot just so people can get to it if they need to. I usually put them in the hot swap bays. And the only thing is, if you do it that way, you gotta attach it to the hot swap.
Yeah.
Attaching it to one place or the other. It's just much harder to get this in and out of these tabs.
The only thing with these E6, man, the coils don't last that long.
How long
Only
are you getting out of
800
these?
puffs.
How long is 800 puffs? Like how many days is that for you?
It could range from like 3 to 5 days.
Okay, so I'm actually glad you brought that up because some of the people at work, a lot of the people are getting away from tobacco and they're going to these e-cigarettes.
Yeah.
I've met people. One of the guys that works for me actually, he was telling me that he's getting some of his to last like 2 or 3 weeks. What are you doing? You know, like my e-cig setup is much older. It's an old Kangertech setup.
You know, but in reality, I think a lot of people were smoking their e-cig with a burnt coil and not realizing it.
Yeah,
They
I can
don't know
tell.
what
Like
that-
as soon as that thing,
Oh,
that
yeah.
coil starts to cook, I can taste it immediately, and I'm like, there. To me, the quality of vaping, like the nicotine delivery, you know, taste, everything's so much better with a fresh coil. So like I put a fresh coil in actually this morning, and because it was just starting to taste burnt, and I don't know if that's because the wattage that I'm using for the resistance. I personally like higher resistance coils, something at half ohm, where most people these days are 1.15 or quarter ohm. But I can't seem to get one to last more than 4 days. Like that's the magic number. In 4 days, it's history. It's time to change it out. So if you were one of those people that were buying coils locally, you would end up spending basically cigarette prices to vape. So I've just got to the point now. I do everything. I buy everything online, and problem solved. Buy them in bulk on eBay. So I think the problem with vaping for a lot of people is that they get discouraged by it because the first or second setup that they do doesn't work for them, and then they're just discouraged and they go back to what's comfortable, which is cigarettes. And I've spent hundreds of dollars to find a setup that works for me, and I'm happy with it.
All right, you're gonna have to power it up from that side because there's not.
Yeah.
There was enough slacked.
So I just kind of bend it around, and actually, here's what I do. I'll show you what I do here. I actually take this, just for airflow purposes, and I put this one on the bottom. It's just a nitpicky thing that you don't have to do.
Ah.
So I put that on the bottom just to keep more airflow, and then the SSD I'll put on top, like that, right? And like, you would think that it would heat up, but the airflow is good enough. It keeps the heat off the SSD.
Yeah, it'll probably be more ideal just because it being lower, it'll be lower temp, and the hard drive, particularly, it's being in mechanical, you want to keep it lower temp as possible.
So then you just, from the same cable there, you can connect all that together, and then it's nice and tight. Usually I'll move the span wires in there first, in that slot, just keep them out of the way. Get it timed together real quick there. I'm not going to go through the works like I would do on a bigger case. I'm just going to do the bare minimum to keep it nice and clean, and then maybe later I'll heat it up a little bit more. Off camera. So this still leaves us a little bit of room in here that we can, actually we need to go one up. I'll show you why. We need to go one up because we want to have room underneath to leave the wires, the extra wires. So it was probably right the first time, in all fairness. All right, now we can start hooking up to do the graphics card, I guess, now. So we just kind of have to line up. Just do that on camera in just a second. Go ahead and route all these through where they need to go. Here's our front panel here. I'm actually going to steal that hole that's cut out for the SSD if I can fit everything. And then everything comes through one.
Is that the audio?
Front panel audio, the front panel USB.
Front audio. The audio
Audio's on that side?
Yeah, it's on this side.
Okay. What about USB?
Uh-oh, hold on. Let me, shit, there we go. Hold on, I think my cat needs to be let out.
No worries. Alright, so I think we're at a good enough point now that we can spin this thing around and let you guys see how we're going to do the graphics card. So, one thing about these heavier cards is that we have to make sure that we secure it right away. That weight's not laying on the card cause. It's going to lean a little bit, and that's okay. They flex, but we definitely want to do it as soon as we can. So, got to figure out what slots we need here. So we know that slot's coming out and that slot's coming out. I'm going to take that screw out first. Good. You actually leave that screw in there just like that. And then get all this out of the way. In there, so kind of keep holding that there, and then you can tighten up that screw and hold it down. Push up on it as you tighten it down. This bit, it's got a Alright, that's locked in. That's not going anywhere now. It's going to have a little bit of play. It's quite alright. Just don't want... Let's go ahead and install the 6-pin first. Lights in there. Pin second.
Last time we spoke, you were saying so long. Now you're hitting me up like what's going on?
That is in there, and then I usually run a zip tie around that to clean it up. Just keep that connector out of the way where you don't have to stare at it.
I got the X-ray vision. I got the X. Maybe you thought you won, but I'm still undefeated. When I like
looks pretty good. Oh, that looks nice and neat. Go ahead and run my SATA cables here. So we just kind of have to take a note of how far those SATA cables are going to run. Just to kind of get an idea if you have more than one, like what size you need, right? And you also want to know which one of your SATA cables or which ones are high speed. So the manual will usually tell you that. Usually they're color coded. So I think on this one the white ones are the high speed ones. Not that it makes a world of difference for most people, but so just to stick with the black theme, we're going to use black SATA cables. And we only need two. Pop that in. Pop this in.
I got the X-ray vision. I got the X. I got the X. See right through all these bitches. Move to the left. Move to the left. I got the X-ray vision. I got the X. I got the X.
I'll just cut the tags off. I don't need to keep that on there. I don't like to see it. It bothers me.
I got the X. I got the X. See right through all these bitches. Move to the left. Move to the left. I got the X-ray vision. I got the X.
Yeah,
I
so
got
these
the
are both
X. Maybe you thought you
90s on the bottom side. I'm going to pass those through here like this. Just tuck them back. Keep that cable as flat as you can going through. Don't put too much tension on that part. Alright, that's pretty good. So I think we're pretty much done in here for right now. We do need to hook up our fans in our front panel. So the system fan is right here. And then our front panel, I'm going to go ahead and lay it down just so we can get everything. So I'm going to just see if I can get this stick. How's that? So we got the first one's going to be the power LED, power LED. So let's see which ones are which. This power LED. Plus side is here. So in this case, it's actually not a bad idea. Do you want to pull up, are you able to pull up the motherboard graphic for this guy?
Oh, the headers?
Yeah, because I mean it tells you on there, but it's a good idea just to go ahead and check and make sure that you've got them on the right pins, because the way they're labeled is kind of goofy. So I don't think this one actually, for whatever reason, oh, it actually does have the manual in it. It's just buried at the bottom.
Huh.
Cool. I didn't think it was in there. It's like the cheapest manual I think I've ever seen.
How long is it? I can point out what you do.
We'll just wing it. Usually they're not spaced out like that, but let's start with the power switch.
Power switch is they're not really directional.
No, it doesn't matter which way you put the power
One
switch.
thing they need to really watch out is for
Reset switch is right below it. Right? And then your P LED. That's the one that we need to. The hard drive indicator light. See which side's plus on this. It's going to be this side here. So we're going to actually put that in upside down. Like that. And then that leaves us with the plus goes on the outside. Put the minus on this first. Get her out of the way. Last one. Like that. Good, we're done. USB is going to go here. Always check and make sure the key's going the right way. That's good. And then front panel audio. Actually, going to go like that. Alright, now we can start cinching everything down. Once all the wires are officially hooked up now. Yep, just gotta tie everything down. So I'm gonna turn it around for everybody else to see. That's fine. Alright. So I try to pull the slack out of the front panel wiring as quick as possible. So now we're going to go ahead and, we were talking about it earlier, we're going to go ahead and tie down this ATX cable here.
Suavemente, bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suavemente, Bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suave, bésame, bésame, suave, bésame otra vez. Yo quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Besa, besa, bésame un poquito. Besa, 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 bésame otro ratito. Pequeña, échate pa' acá.
That's not going anywhere.
Suavemente, bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suavemente, bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suave, bésame, bésame, suave, bésame otra vez. Yo quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Besa, besa, bésame un
Just
poquito.
attaching the SATA cables now to the drives. Put a zip tie on those to hold them together to keep them from moving around a bunch. And keeping in mind, it doesn't have to be the prettiest job as long as you really don't see much of it when it's closed up. That's the main idea, is to keep it out of the airways. And you can spend more time on it, but for the sake of this live stream, I'm not going to waste tons and tons of time doing it.
Drunk and I don't care. My ex calling cause she wanted blowing smoke up in the air. I've been driving around the side of town. She told me it ain't fair, but I've been going crazy, bitch. I'm on a mission, I'll make it there. She'll wait. Hold up, hold up. I'm a menace, I'm a threat. We just out here with the squad and we all living like we get. I've been up all night, working late, getting paid. Told me I ain't gonna make it, I'ma take it to the grave. Take it to the grave, take it to the grave. Take it to the grave, take it to the grave.
One more zip ties and we'll be ready to start the test run this thing.
Hold it too much for this. So we get pretty
Awesome.
set of processing. Oh, I find my dog.
Uh-oh. So I like to use these little loops for the SSD as like wire management holders. Just, you know, if you're not putting anything back there, no reason why you can't use it for something else. As long as everything's buttoned up nicely, you can put the side panel on pretty easily.
Okay, hella fly though. Why you sitting hating? We just headed for the sky though. Yeah, we bout it, we ain't even gotta try though. Is you with it, is you ain't, bitch, the hella fine though. I've been on my grind all the time like squad in the shop, right? Yo, girl, it's my mission.
So it still looks pretty messy, and this is probably not one of my better jobs, but it will do its job. Will serve its purpose. So now, go ahead and put this side panel back on at this point. That's how I'll do it, just to keep it down. Add one more zip tie here. Zip tie it to itself. All right. Down. Try to push it up a little bit here so that it's inside that bubble. This is the hard part. And I think I got it in the first try. That never happens. Yeah, that never happens. Cool that it happened on camera. So now that side's on, we can go ahead and put our screws on this side. Now, one thing that I do is I don't put thumb screws on this side because I don't want people taking that off. So I don't want them to say, hey, can't get this panel back on. So I always tell them, hey, I took thumb screws off that side because you probably don't even need to go in there. Unless you need to change something. In that case, you can just get a screwdriver. But I always explain to everybody, like, hey, that's how your wire is tucked out of the way. Take it off, it's hard to get it back on. Alright, there's the top one. That looks pretty good. Alright, so let's flip it around. Fingerprints all over the top. So at this point we can kind of tuck very carefully, just bend those around, tuck those back like that. Now we still got a pretty good amount of airflow coming through here, and you can see, straighten this out for you guys. You can see how nice and clean it is in there. You wouldn't have thought so when it was facing the other way. Let's put some light in there for you too. And we'll go ahead and test run it. And see, it looks pretty good. There's a little opportunity here in this spot. I'll clean that up later. It's, for the most part, it's pretty clean. Alright. So, my personal superstition is I don't like to put the outside side panel on until I get it posted.
Okay.
I don't know if there's other computer guys that have that superstition, but I think it's just bad luck. It's like the one superstition I have. We don't put that side panel on until we're ready to fire it up. Until we know that it works.
USB.
Alright.
Keyboard and mouse.
In that case, I'm going to go ahead and take this off the front here. This will kill two birds with one stone. We'll be able to test out our front panel USB as well. And
guess we also need a power supply cable.
well, I got the power cord that came with the power supply. Yeah.
Drop it down.
What is a shorter one? No, I might.
I have one.
Okay. Let's say I might have one in my kit. That's interesting because I'm pretty sure the ones that used to be longer. That's a pretty heavy duty one there. Alright, are we ready? You have the HDMI connected yet? Alright, and that dongle is a combination, right?
That will power up that screen right in front of you.
Okay, cool. Are you ready? I thought it was on. Well, it's on now. I thought I turned it on. Oh man. Just kidding. So far, so good. Here we go. BIOS has been reset. Cool, cool, cool. That's gonna look really cool. That GeForce GTX logo is gonna be coming through that side panel. That's gonna look pretty nice. I personally, I'm a fan of the reference cards myself. I just saw a blue screen, so let's see what happens. Oh, you know what it is? There's a window still on this SSD.
Oh.
That's right, we'll fix it. Looks like it was partially wiped or something, so he's trying to boot into it. So we're gonna, let me go ahead and get my USB jumper, or jump drive. I'm actually gonna just turn it off. That'll kill my... Right now I'm trying to get into the BIOS to change boot sequence real quick. Is that streaming?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. They can see that.
You see everything on screen.
That is awesome. All right, so
DJ's like screen up on the stream.
So actually, the BIOS, this Gigabyte BIOS is smart enough it knows. We've got the hard drive. Interesting. Disable it for now. Alright, so I think we're good there. Let's just make sure that everything else looks good. Oh, that's fine. There we go. Good now. Alright, so we usually generally with most BIOS F10 does it, but in this case it didn't. So save and exit, confirm. Now it's going to boot from that USB drive, and we'll go ahead and install a fresh copy of Windows. So the fact that we made it this far and we didn't bench test this prior to, that makes me really happy. I was kind of terrified that anybody that was watching this might have wasted their entire night.
Dude, I had the ones where I was troubleshooting for like 2 hours or so. Stuff was rough.
So anytime you see that purple background blue or whatever that color is. It's like, that's good. It's getting the windows there. Go ahead and go in here. We're going to install Windows. Right there, install. I generally do a fresh install every time. Alright, we got my product key here. And my product's not here. Locate one.
You can skip it for now, I believe.
Yeah. We can. We'll do that.
Well, wait, but for the product wise, do you want?
I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and knock
Wait,
it
you
out.
have to install the drivers and everything. You have to go in the Windows environment anyways. Okay. Yeah, you can skip that and come back to it. It's also the weekend. It's probably what's delayed.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
probably won't come in on the other side of the world till a certain time.
Well, so it's only gonna let us do. I guess the N is not activated, right? On that.
No. Those are the light editions of those. You want to use the regular.
Yeah, I've never had to do this before. I always just have the key. But we'll go around. I know you can do it. I know a lot of people that do test runs for hardware. They won't even bother.
Yeah.
We'll do a custom install, and then at this point we can start formatting hard drives.
Yeah,
So
just
the
remove it.
drive 0, that hard drive is actually brand new. We just took it out of the box, so we're just gonna make a new partition there. And actually, I probably will delete that and let Windows do that once we get it loaded, because it's gonna format it as if Windows is gonna go on it. See what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're gonna just delete all these.
I usually just delete everything and then just do the Windows install and then format it. So.
So I'm gonna wait until Windows is up and then I'll format.
Or
the
instead of
partition
new, you
there.
could just once it's one drive, you
just gonna
could
say I like it. I
use
like
the
it.
format. Oh, it doesn't allow you. I see.
Yeah, you have to have it. It has to be a new volume first. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this and then create a new volume. This is the SSD, guys. It says 118 gigs. That's what's able to be used after the file system's on it. So we'll do that. It's going to create whatever partitions it needs, and then we'll move forward with the install. And then once we're in Windows, we'll go ahead and format that 1 terabyte drive.
Yeah.
All right. So it's going to give you all these extra partitions here to make Windows run. Should go pretty quickly because it's USB 3, so we should be up and running in 5 minutes or so.
I don't think so much live builds. They offer the preview of the screen during the install.
That's different. That's pretty cool.
My ads always overtake my comment section. There you go. Copy this for later too. A lot of potential with the software. I definitely want to start workshops for getting people to like learn OBS.
Yeah, with the software. Yeah, I mean this is a really cool program. I mean,
And with the last update, they really cleaned up all the issues. I don't have blue. I used to have blue screens with my Logitech C920s, but now it doesn't. So that's a big improvement.
yeah, I'm not a streamer by any stretch. I don't even use Twitch. Like I was saying earlier in the stream, a lot of my customers buy my machines and they tend to stream whether they're playing Fortnite or whatever they're doing. That's the most common one these days is Fortnite. I think Apex is taking over now. But they want to stream their games and stuff, and it's just something that I've never done. I've done video and audio editing in the past, and web design. But this is a really cool program here. The amount of the different things that you can do with it, the capabilities that it has, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. The only thing is, like, I'm trying to pull this off by myself, but if I had like a group of people that's like backing it,
Yeah,
we could get a lot more done for sure.
absolutely.
My question sometimes should I be streaming out of my studio's channel instead of my own channel, stuff like this, in the studio?
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, because you don't know the
I think your
analytics behind it.
content's a little bit more musically oriented, isn't it? Like, it's,
Yeah, on the studio currently, just because like no one's been following through or requesting the use of the channel,
Yeah.
so it's been more limited to the monthly DJ streams and the occasional guest artist.
I was talking to my buddies over the weekend and just kind of talking about doing my own YouTube channel and getting out and learning some of the stuff. But that would be kind of how my channel would be. It would just be kind of a mixture of different things that me and my friends enjoy. I don't really do much music besides listen to it, but I've got a couple of friends that DJ and stuff. But I'm into cars, I'm into guns, and obviously computers. And computers is a big thing. That's where I spend most of my time doing. But I can see how like a program like this, like learning all the odds and ends to it, could be really instrumental in putting good content out there.
Lower this even further. There. You guys could probably hear us way better now since the music's down. It's so crazy how sensitive Windows audio is. But then a lot of these companies that have like an API or like a system, a website and stuff, they don't really have a normalized volume. So I'm like, I never max my volume on like iTunes and stuff. It's usually like 75%, and then because YouTube desperately needs every volume you can possibly get.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like your some of your different music services, like I don't think that they anticipate that you're going to be using it like on a streaming setup like this. So I don't think that this was really built in mind.
I mean, it's expanding. I definitely see a lot of these brands expanding for streamers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the streaming brands are also like really looking into what a streamer needs, and they're making their products like tuned for the streamer rather than I know there's all kinds of market. Why don't we just make it broad?
It's
doing less of that. That's just a good
it's
thing to
definitely
see.
come a long way. I mean, it's changed so much just in a couple of years. I feel like after YouTube, like the next big thing was Twitch, and I feel like since I've lived in Charlotte, I've been here 5 years. I feel like in the last couple of years, it's really taken off.
Yeah, I never ever thought I would be running into like random people that are streamers in the area, but I've been running more and more. I think it's good that we are like pushing for more of this community in the Charlotte area. Again, Charlotte's that place that has everything but no culture, so we're trying to breed that culture as much as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting because Charlotte really is a big melting pot of everybody. So I'm originally from about 3 hours away from here, and my hometown's a lot more like old-fashioned and boring. There's not as much to do, and this town has a lot more to offer. There's a lot more jobs here. There's a lot of different type of people, and there's something for everybody. But yeah, like as far as stuff like this, it's just kind of starting to catch traction, I think.
Yeah. Have I showed you the gimbal before? Okay, I don't know about the gimbal today.
I have no idea what this is, so I'm gonna find out, I guess.
First figure out what it is. So, you ever watch like video clips where they have those super steady video shots?
Yeah.
Most would assume they use a Steadicam or something, but Steadicams are huge setups. They have a harness and everything. But with modern sensors and the accessibility to microprocessors and stuff, they have these gimbals that self-balance your whatever device you throw on it. They have bigger ones for DSLR.
So it just takes all that shakiness out of the picture, basically.
It pretty much doesn't require digital stabilization. It pretty much makes it into actual physical stabilization. I was gonna get some footages for later. We could edit some stuff. Maybe we could just PCs together and make a little Instagram clip for you for your page.
Hey, that'd be cool. So we're just going through the Windows setup here. We're gonna skip the Ethernet for now. I may hook up Wi-Fi if I can find my. I usually just put owner on all mine because it's not gonna be for me.
It's easy.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of Cortana.
I usually turn off everything.
Yeah, I turn everything off, like the speech recognition.
I mean, customers can turn off everything. I don't want to be liable.
And it's like the Find My Device. Sure, we'll leave that on. All the rest of the stuff, all of it can get turned off. I'm just not into it. Anything that you can turn off that may make Windows run faster, I'm all for that.
You know, phone lenses, they don't stay so clean for long. They get scratched pretty bad with the coating we put on. My videos are so hazy. Still hazy.
Which phone is it?
It's a G6.
Oh, okay. I'm actually on the prowl for a new Android phone. I think I'm gonna go with the S10, the new S10 Plus that just came out.
I like the Moto series because they're very close to like Google's like vanilla style.
Yeah.
But they definitely have changed.
I'll tell you one phone I was really impressed with is the new the Asus Zenfone. I think it's the 5Z is what it's called. It's an unlocked phone. You can buy it at Best Buy. You can get it on Amazon. It's around the $500 price point. It is outstanding. It has a fantastic camera on it. I think it's like 16 or 18 megapixels or something on the rear facing, and on the forward facing, I think it's, I want to say 8 or 10. It's really, really crisp.
Alright, so virtual device.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
This is how they do that.
And it's a lot more ergonomic than trying to do the.
Dude, trying to hold a camera still.
Then you never have to worry about getting a finger in the frame or blurring it out or anything like that. That's really cool.
It's a good concept. I definitely love the bigger scale ones for the. I really want to get a bigger scale for my little mirrorless.
Yeah. I can see that's cool. I'm gonna have to get one of those.
These run really low now.
Yeah.
They usually used to retail around 300, but now they're down like 100 or less.
Wow.
So.
I'd say it's totally worth it, especially if you operate, YouTube or an Instagram channel or something like that. Yeah. Especially Instagram, like that. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a little video clip for this for sure.
Right. What about real quick before you get to recording there?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about the internet?
What do you mean? Oh, you need a Cat 5?
Yeah.
I actually got plenty of
Or if you got a Wi-Fi dongle we can use, that's fine too.
I actually have a lot of cables around.
Usually at home on the test bench, I just hook up a Wi-Fi USB adapter and call it good.
I ran extra network cables around.
Yeah. So I ran Cat 5s at my house. I have an old split level house, so I had to wrap the house.
If you had, is there a rental property?
Well, my sad story is that I did all the work to run the wires, and my dog chewed through them, where they ran out of the wall from the router.
I actually got I have some keys.
Well, I just got them ran through the wall for now. I appreciate it. I might check it out. For right now, I'm getting by. The one that she didn't get was the one that goes to the office. The other two run to the bedrooms, and those are toast. But I just ran those so that Netflix wouldn't have to go over Wi-Fi. It's still working okay.
I actually upgraded my router to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm waiting to have the funds to buy the new Nighthawk. I've got an older mid-level NetGear that's still kicking, still doing really well, and it does. For whatever reason, I don't know if I just picked a good one, but it handles Xbox Live really well. I don't have a latency issue playing any of my games, and I can run multiple systems at the same time and not have any issues.
Yeah, I'm wondering if our startups having some type of noise. I don't know. I think haven't updated my hardware in a while.
So let me ask you this. You're talking about connection problems. Is it stuff that you see on the network, or is it stuff that you see on the internet?
It's stuff I see on both. Like I used to have a 0% drop rate on my frames.
Yeah.
I started to increase it, but it could all be like something silly as my computer is causing my whole network to have packet issues, and hence everything is failing to have proper connection. My computer is the only thing that's always connected to the network physically. So I'm wondering if things are starting to stack on my computer and causing issues. Because right now my stream's going pretty smooth, but I've been running into some weird issues recently. Like right now it says drop frames. It says 2.8%. That means that's the percentage of frames that's been dropped.
Yeah.
From the whole stream. That's kind of high from coming from 0%.
Yeah.
Most people do report that they do have problems like that. But
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you look at your CPU usage, you're not even like, it's barely using anything. I don't know what kind of setup you're running, but
the more the stuff I think running into is like the bus bandwidth issues with USB. USB tends to eat up these, particularly USB 3 devices, eat up a lot of the limited bandwidth you got.
All right, so we're in now. We are online. So what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm just gonna go in and you just type in check for updates, and we go ahead and get the baseline, everything that Windows thinks it needs to get. You'll go ahead and get those service packs, security fixes, drivers, particularly like some of the important stuff. You can actually see here. It's going to download a wide variety of stuff. The chipset stuff's on here too. Usually the display adapter for the graphics card. You can see this resolution right now is really low. It's just the plug and play that Windows runs. So once all that's done, it'll have me restart this machine a couple of times, but I can say, like, obviously I haven't benchmarked it yet or anything. This card, I hadn't even hooked it up to anything yet. But once I get it home, I'll benchmark it. I'll see how it's doing, and then I'll go ahead and get it put up for sale once I can guarantee everything looks good. I like to make sure I cover the bases, because the last thing I want to do, I don't want to sell somebody something that doesn't work. I was really excited to do this build too, because I've had all the parts here I've had sitting in a box at home just waiting to get a board, and I happened to run into that board, and I got it for such a sweet deal, and I was like, oh well, it's a simple board. It doesn't have like overclocking stuff built into it or anything, but hey, whatever, it'll do what it needs to do for just a casual gamer, or somebody who's doing music or something. So while that's doing that, we're doing updates. I'm just gonna go ahead and partition so I don't forget to do it, the platter drive. So you just type in partition in the search bar, you'll see that pop up there. And then you can see this disk 0, and do a simple volume. Right, it's going to tell you how much you can make. We're going to assign it a drive letter. I guess D is being used by the flash drive, is my guess. So that's fine. We'll just make sure that D is being used by the flash drive. So what I'll probably do, let's do this. Screen's flipping right now because it's downloading the display adapter to the video drivers. That's why I did that. I'm just going to detach my jump drive here, USB drive. And now, I'm going to cancel this out. Let's try this now. Alright, so now it's going to let me use the drive D, and I just prefer to have them sequential like that. Just put it as storage. Let it format it. So it's going to format that, and then it's ready for use. the status of our updates here. I think we're just waiting for security fixes. That is really cool.
I got a new computer. Service, but
I was waiting for those.
I didn't know either until somebody listed it, and I was like, well, this is the deal.
How are the specs that comparable to like the service?
This is 7th gen i5. I think so.
So I'm assuming it's the same exact i5 that are going in laptops, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, the resolution on that's insane.
That's definitely over. The fact that it's with pixels, this is actually 125 up.
So it's actually everything was smaller before.
Yeah. It's 7300 U. So definitely so
Yeah.
no graphics.
Yeah, obviously the discrete graphics are probably gonna be too high.
Yeah.
But I mean, what would you need it for as far as like the tablet anyway?
I mean, yeah, there's actually an option to go external graphic with it. It's gonna be for sure.
Interesting.
It is USB-C based.
Yeah, I've been out of the game for some of that stuff. For like our tablets in our house, I literally just use them to play PUBG with my kids.
Yeah.
And for that, they're really cool.
All the mobile computing stuff is really evolving, especially gaming. I've been seeing a lot of these games that have streaming incorporated for YouTube. You just sign to YouTube and you can stream directly off their game. I think that's like a huge step. Not needing a whole
It definitely makes it more simplistic for the people that are trying to get into it. I think it's come a long way. The ability for people to get out and create, to see if it's something they want to do. I think it's awesome that we've got that far because, I feel like YouTube started back in 2006, somewhere around there, 2005.
Around. Actually, let's just look it up.
It's been around for a while, and I know I started watching YouTube to look at music videos and stuff, and then I started actually following different channels and creators and building up subscriptions.
Yeah, it was founded in 2005.
2005. So I kind of feel like I probably first experienced it late 05, beginning of 06, and even since then it's a totally different platform.
Yeah, we're about to have the 15th year anniversary of YouTube here. It's crazy.
Well, back then Google didn't know it either, so I don't think.
Google's 6 years older.
Yeah. Well, I think YouTube was its own thing at first, and then
Yeah,
Google bought it later.
way before they bought it out. 1998. That's crazy. To believe Google's that old.
Yeah.
Apple's even older. At 42 years.
Yeah, going back to Apple, this is my last iPhone. I won't buy another one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
But
it.
you haven't even tried the edgeless screens yet. That's not even your X series yet.
No, I had an iPhone X.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. So I don't want to put AT&T on blast, but I had a bad experience with AT&T, and
Yeah.
I ended up. Yeah, their customer service, just the people are awesome, but the processes that I've had that they've put me through to get certain things done have been nightmarish. And I work in a call center for a telecom company, so I can appreciate what it's like to be on the other end of the phone and that type of thing. So, but my experience was poor, and I opted to go to Verizon. I was with Verizon for a week and a half, and for whatever reason, the areas that my wife works, she drives all over town. It wasn't feasible for her to stay with Verizon, so we ultimately had to go back to AT&T, and since then it's been even worse. So I finally got everything cleared up, but I'm sure now that I'm not going to stay with the some of these new, like we talked about the Asus phone, the Samsung phone, you're talking about the Motos, they're just, for the computing power that they have, I mean, these little devices, you can play all these mobile games on them now and do so much more than you used to be able to
I
do.
gotta whip out something, like.
Yeah. All right.
Accessory that Motorola didn't market much since Lenovo took over Motorola. They have a gamepad.
That is awesome.
You guys can see that. It's like a gamepad attachment for your Moto. But what I like to do is you can Steam Link your phone now. They have a beta version of Steam Link
Yeah.
on Android. So I'll be Steam Linking this. And it actually it maps it perfectly. You don't need to do much more.
So, okay. So this is, Motorola made this.
Motorola made this, which is now Lenovo.
Oh, okay. So that explains that's the Legion logo, right?
Yeah.
That's what that is? Okay. So, nobody probably knows this, but I'm a huge Lenovo laptop fanboy. That sound. There it goes.
It came back. Okay. Now it's an echo. It's ruining my teeth. It's ruining it.
So this is really cool. I'm a huge Lenovo fanboy, and I've actually got a Lenovo laptop I've been listening for sale right now. I've had probably, I think, 3 or 4 of them. I think the value equation that you get with them are outstanding. I think that the only other ones I'm really crazy about are the MSI.
Yeah.
For laptops, anyways. Alright, so we're getting a little error here. It's telling us to restart the computer. This does happen, but you can either hit retry. If it doesn't do it, we'll restart it, and then it'll get through. So one thing I've found that when it comes to like drivers and hardware and stuff is that yes, there's standards, but everybody's kind of out for their profit.
Yeah.
And stuff doesn't always play nicely the first time around, and that's okay.
And maybe the Moto, there's a 3rd edition now. This is the Moto Z2, but they have a Z3 play now.
So they're still making these.
They're making it, but the hype's kind of dying. So
Well, I need to get
They
one
went
before
for
they
it,
go
they're
away.
good, yeah.
It seems like something like that. When they quit making it, you're not going to be able to find them anymore.
it took me a little bit to find it.
Because I'm just like, I actually went and bought the USB dongle so that you can do the gamepad attachment, but that's way cooler. I would way rather use that. The one downside I think I see to this is that you wouldn't be able to have your phone in a case.
Yeah, it's on the downside, but if you stick to the Z2 series,
Yeah.
this still has a shatter shield. The
Okay.
Moto was non-cracked plastic screens. I'm ready to just get the soft protector on it,
Okay.
and that prevents it from scratching.
Yeah.
And I don't case this. You can tell I don't case this.
Well, and even so, I mean, the Motorola phones, they're priced so well that if you compare it to what you would buy like a brand new Galaxy for, you could actually have one that, if you wanted to have a second phone, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
I see people on eBay listing this phone for like $200-$300, which is way cheaper than phones these days, and it has AMOLED. You can throw this in a little Google VR headset, and it's compatible.
Really?
Yeah, they went all out on their flagships.
So
I really don't like how a lot of people don't recognize Motorola and Lenovo because they make one of the best hardwares out there. They don't really push it, so
yeah.
people don't know about it.
So maybe their marketing is just not as good. But I mean, even though, like I remember being at the AT&T and T-Mobile stores, and I've seen this phone there.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's their no contract phone offering for a lot of people, and it was I think when it came out, it was in the $500-$600 price point somewhere in there.
It was actually still like a good $600-$700.
Okay.
But then there's that thing like you get the accessories. You want the projector. You want the camera attachment.
Yeah.
The zoom camera though is really nice.
What is this? What is this attachment run? The gamepad.
That was $80.
Okay, that's not bad.
Pretty much every accessory in current market's around $80.
And that's got good sticks on it. I mean, that's really to me reminds me of like an Xbox controller.
It pretty much mimics every button of the Xbox controller. It has all of it. Actually, it has
It's got the shoulder buttons.
dual
And
triggers.
yeah,
So you actually get the bumper and trigger separate.
it really is. It really is just like
They really put their time into this design. Lights up if you have it set to like, yeah.
And
that off.
so I'm assuming this works over is it a Bluetooth device or
No, so
it's got a port on the
they
back.
have pin connectors. That's
Okay.
why these Z series are so special. Because
So it's probably like there's no input lag or anything like that. And
nope, it's a direct connect pretty much.
that's cool. So and then as far as battery power, does it borrow from the phone or does it use its own?
It has batteries usually on both devices on their accessories. It doesn't power the phone or anything, so you definitely have to keep track of your phone's charge.
Gotcha.
What does that? Okay. They are still following the flagship style of no 3.5 jack,
Oh yeah.
which kills me because I already lost mine, my friend.
That drives me nuts about my iPhone. I can't stand it. The thing is,
Now, the gamepad does have 3.5 built in
okay.
and a USB port for charging because that gets taken up by the attachment itself. The projector and speaker attachment has to be charged.
Gotcha. This is really cool, man. I'm really glad you showed me this because now I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna have to pick one of these up now because
And then you're also in like a later phone market price too. You could be spending $700-800 on a brand new phone, or you get what you want
Yeah.
for under $5.
yeah, you get everything that you want as far as the capabilities that it has and everything. This is solid, and the lockup on here is pretty good too.
Their attachment method is pretty amazing. There's a speaker attachment. When I have it on, I use it like a case, and it never falls off. Camera too. Installed up again. No, it's pending.
Yeah, it's just waiting for that last one, and then once we restart, we should be good. There'll be a couple more that probably come through, the ones that are contingent. But this is the kind of hurry up and wait phase. I mean, the computer's done, but we do want to make sure we get all the updates and stuff installed and drivers before we start installing other software.
Do you usually drop GeForce Experience for your customers?
So yeah, I usually will go in and I'll make sure. Sometimes, if there's anything missing, I'll go in and manually install it. But yeah, I like to have it, especially. Another thing that I really do, once Windows puts everything, obviously all of this is going on the SSD because it's the boot drive, right?
Yeah.
But going forward, anything else I install, so like GeForce Experience, which I think is around half a gig, you start really counting gigs on a smaller SSD.
Yeah.
So like I make sure I install all that stuff on the platter drive because it's got 1 terabyte.
It's funny. This rig that's running everything is the same pretty much. Like
Same kind of
sort
setup.
of spec. Yeah. Is it 16 gigs of RAM?
Yes.
Okay, so pretty much only thing is the CPU and generation and clock speed, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty much running the same thing, 16 gigs. So basic.
16 gigs at 1600 megahertz, I believe. It's an i5 4590. It's a 3.3 gigahertz base clock and turbo up to 3.7. And then for the SSD, it's 120 gigabyte boot drive with a 1 terabyte hard drive.
I think this system goes up to 422.
Yeah, so they've come a long way.
Yeah, I think it goes up.
3.6 base.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
goes to
way better kit.
boost. So
But again, it's a value equation thing. So
yeah.
for me, my systems are a little bit on the pricier side. The one thing that I do try to keep them clean as far as like the wire management goes. I'll probably take this home and clean it up a little bit more. But I also stand behind it. So if something happens, it's very rare, but if people have questions, they can call me if they have compatibility issues or God forbid something happens to the computer, hardware fails and it's not lightning or something, then I'll stand behind it and fix
I spent the extra 2 hours stream trying to figure out like what the problem was. Swap the motherboard out, swap the power supply out. Well, no, we didn't swap the power supply out because that was the problem. It was the region switch set for 220.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it would jump and come up and die. I'm like, well, there's nothing that causes this kind of behavior. I went to
So
three
it's
motherboards.
like that out of the factory then.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a lot of troubleshooting. And here's the thing, like, that's not something that it's something that like we've all seen the switch on there, but we've never actually touched it unless you travel abroad with a computer or something. Like, you have no reason to touch that. And I've heard other horror stories like that where
That was a 4-hour build stream. And the end of the stream, I never figured it out. Next morning, I started another stream because when I walked in my bedroom, I could see it from walking out of my bedroom. Like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me.
yeah. Yeah, I've had most of the stuff like that I've encountered along the way have either been just like something was blatantly bad. Like I've had bad motherboards. People have told me I keep them as mementos.
You know what? That's another thing too nowadays. Modern power switching have auto regions switching, so they don't have those red switches.
Yeah.
That was an older power supply. They were doing a very budgeted. We upgraded their
Some of the more basic ones I think still have it.
Yeah.
Anything in like the sub $40 price point, most of them have it. Like 3 and 400 watts. Any of your 80 plus gold, I think those are pretty much gone at this point.
Yeah. So they pretty much did the same thing I did. Is like they had a HP computer that they could pull the CPU and the RAM from, and it was a 7th gen, just like mine. So I went ahead and like got a motherboard. I had an old case laying out that like I never used it. Remember the red case?
Vaguely.
I think I might have already sold the case, or maybe I was trying to get rid of the case at the time. But he ended up taking that for a good price. So I think I got it for like $20 or something.
Yeah.
2 cases for 40.
Yeah, that's what I usually do with mine. If I have a customer that brings me a computer, like I had one that I'm thinking about now. He bought a machine for me, and it got hit by lightning.
Yeah.
So he brought it to me, and the front panel connectors were all burned up. And rather than just try to solder everything, I just said, "Hey, I'll just give you my other case." I didn't want to be wasting time with a soldering iron to fix stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna twist it, splice it. So Jimmy, you probably get away with it. That's fine. But I said, "No, I'll just give you this thing, one of these cases I got laying around," and because that's one of the rare times that ones actually came back.
What they ran into was they went out and bought a graphic card and they had a computer. They're like, we're gonna pop it in there. They're like, we can't figure it out. They bring it in. It's like this motherboard's not gonna take your graphic card in this case. So I had the case and the motherboard. Yeah, just gonna pop it in. They got themselves a graphic card already. I think it was a 1070s. They got themselves a decent card.
Yeah, I've got a 1070 in my Alienware.
Yeah.
That's what I've been running. I've got a little old X51.
I gotta just show you the Dell blower that I got. 1060.
Yeah, I looked into that.
It was a steel fine. The guy let it go for 100.
Wait a minute, was that locally?
Yeah.
So what size is it?
What do you mean? It's like a founder card.
No. I mean, what memory base? Like, is it 6 gig, 3 gig?
I think it was only a 3.
Okay.
I
Has it got a black cover?
Yes.
I talked to that guy. I'm pretty sure this was recently that you bought it.
Yeah.
Like within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. It's just such a small world. So that's actually how we met. We met trading computer parts, but yeah, no, I saw that. I have one of the Founders Edition, the one you're talking about. I have the 6 gig version of my kids' Alienware that I built for them. It's a 2nd gen. It's a 2nd or 3rd gen Intel. I think I've got a 3rd gen i5 in it, but it's got one of the Ivy Bridge boards.
It's just so weird that I never thought that I would come across actual Dell branded, Founder.
Yeah, there was the guy I'm thinking about had a couple of them. I don't know. I think the 1070 was the first one to go, and that's what I've got in mine. I've got Founders because with micro builds, you really want a blower style card.
There's a definitely temperature difference from my 1050 with a dual fan versus the blower 1060.
Oh yeah. So I tried. I had read online that you needed the blower style card, but I tried to put the aftermarket. I guess it was an EVGA.
Yeah.
Twin fan 970 in it, and because it's a direct swap, just 2 6-pins.
Yeah, but it just spins the heat around in a compact body like the X51.
I'll tell you what, I touched that heatsink on the edge, taking it out. It was hot. Like
I was trying to run 1050 for a while. It's just not. It's now in my Mac Pro. That's where I originally got the 1050 for. Was the Mac Pro. I recently found out the 10 series during that time was they didn't have drivers for the Mac, but they recently got it. So I was like, I'm all in now.
Well, one thing. So here you go, guys. It's doing round 2 now. So one thing I really like about NVIDIA cards is that they might not be revolutionary from one generation to the next. Like going from the 7 series to the 9 series wasn't revolutionary. Like it was still more game changers.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really, really like about NVIDIA is that every generation of card that's come out since like the 5 or 6 series, they continue to demand less power. So you're getting a lot more graphics performance, and you can use a smaller power supply. So take case in point, the Alienware systems that we have, they run entirely on a 330 watt, and the TDP on that 1070 is only like 135 watts.
I'm running on 180, I think, right? So
That's 220.
I still have the 180 watt.
Really? I thought they only came with 220s or 330s.
Maybe this is a 220.
Yeah, so it's like the flat brick.
Yeah.
Because my first X51 R2 had a 220 in it. It was the low end X51, and it was a great machine, but back then you couldn't get the power supplies that cheap. They were like $100.
I mean, I guess this is what we were trying to also figure out for customers too. Is like, what's like been around. You know what's really crazy? You remember those little mini early Steam boxes that Alienware made?
Yes.
Those are still like $400 or $500.
The Alienware Alpha, right?
Yeah, the Alpha. That's right.
They use, if I'm not mistaken, they use like laptop graphics cards basically.
Pretty much is a laptop, but no. So a certain gen of them are also special because they take the graphic amplifier, right?
Yeah, the newer ones. Yeah, you can hook it up. It's like a Thunderbolt port or something that has.
It's actually proprietary.
But it's like the Thunderbolt port, right?
Yeah, I acquired one for $40. Sold on eBay for $120, but
wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had no use for it at the time. Now I really wanted to buy another one.
Yeah, it'd be really cool for like a home theater computer, though.
That's exactly what I was trying to get. But yeah, they won't budge to my price.
They're like the size of what, like a Nintendo Wii or something, basically.
I think they're slightly smaller than a Wii.
Yeah.
And so much more powerful. Actually, Wii's are based on GeForce graphics.
Yeah. They the Alpha caught my eye, but so when I was looking at them, they didn't have that external graphics capability. So and even so, the external graphics capability, I think you have to have a power supply with it too. Don't you?
So it's built into the graphic amplifier. The amplifier actually takes regular PC, like the IEC cable.
Yeah.
IEC.
Yeah, so like they didn't have that back then, and I was kind of turned off to it that it had such limited capabilities. But that's one thing Dell's usually pretty good about. They seem to kind of listen to what people want, and they do a pretty good job. Like
that's really what's revolutionizing, like consumer products, like companies that actually listen. There's so much products that just disappoint me every day.
You're just kind of like, oh, this is more of the same. It's been nice over the last few years. Like for the longest time, and that's one thing I wish Lenovo would change, is that everybody just did red backlit everything. Yeah. And people are starting to catch on. Companies are starting to catch on that people want different stuff.
I know why that started recording. I didn't realize I tapped that. It's a good thing I didn't kill the live. But yeah, it was recording for like 15 minutes. I somehow tapped the record.
So it stores that to your whatever your.
Yeah, I have a hard drive. I have a terabyte hard drive. That's what I was saying. Like this is really spec like mine.
Yeah. So like me personally, I'm not big into computer games anymore. I played StarCraft. I played Battlefield 3, 4. I've got one. I haven't really played it much. I have avoided buying 5.
Yeah, I haven't had my rig long enough to have like. Oh, maybe it is a 2 terabyte. Oh, it's a 2 terabyte. I didn't realize it was 2 terabytes.
Yeah. The 1 terabyte I can get for a good deal, and it's enough for most people. And if somebody ever comes to me and says, "Hey, the 1 terabyte's not enough," I'll get them a 2 terabyte or a 4 terabyte or whatever they want. That's fine. I personally, I'm good with it. I've got an external in my house that, if I need something bigger,
experienced too much hard drive failures in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I want something that has RAID built in.
Yeah.
But when you start getting like what do you call smart hard drive systems, they really hit the budgets. They start from like $500.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it will give you like a forewarning, like you're gonna have to replace your drive and rebuild this RAID because the health reading is not good for your drive. I mean, if you have 4 terabytes of like footages, and that all could just disappear from ROM.
Yeah, that's from a content creator. I can imagine that would be a nightmare.
It's crazy when you watch YouTube videos of what people do for video storage. They have these
Like what?
fancy ass like RAID systems. For 45 drives.
Like this, like having a setup like this and doing stuff like this all the time, like that just has to be awesome to be able to do this. I mean, I can't imagine like all the work and man hours that went into. We were talking off camera about it earlier. All the man hours that went into setting all this stuff up and doing the research and talking to people on forums and messaging and stuff, trying to figure out what works and doing research. So it's definitely like you see it and you definitely appreciate it, even if you're not like me. I'm not into streaming, but like coming here and experiencing it, it's like, wow, this is really cool, Yeah. And you've been trying to get me over here for a while.
We'll have another field stream at some point. 2019 will be a field year for the studio. I'm considering a second DJ stream a month.
Yeah.
Because we do a general DJ, like you bring what you want category, but we have a community here that's trying to listen to house music and trying to rebuild house.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a monthly like house stream hosted by DJ Hector. So that would be a cool little addition. And there's currently 2 talk shows that's in the works. That's not probably going to be streamed directly out of the studio channel, but
Kind of a secondary thing.
yeah, in turn that'll also build people that actually understand how to like put all this together. We're going to also help the future podcasts and stuff through this process.
Yeah, no, this is cool. So another thing I do with these systems, a lot of times if I know it's going to go to somebody that's going to be gaming, I'll go ahead and put on like monitors. I'll put Afterburner on their forum, some kind of monitoring, core temp, CPU Z, whatever, just so they can see everything that's there and they can monitor whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
And then I always download Chrome. I'm not a big Microsoft fanboy, so I don't like using Edge or Explorer.
I've yet to fall in love with Edge. I'm a true Microsoft fanboy too myself, but it's been rough trying to get used to that. It does definitely help on battery life for tablets that's running on Windows.
Yeah.
Because Chrome is definitely resource intensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, all of our workstations had to be upgraded to utilize some of the new systems and for Chrome because we have so many tabs open to run all of our tools at work that we had to. So like computers were all upgraded years ago from 4 to 8, and now we're kind of starting to upgrade it from 8 to 16 just to make sure that we can keep up. And we're actually replacing all of our systems that are running, second, third gen Intel stuff with newer. Unfortunately, we went with HP, which I'm not a fan of. But
I'm surprised they don't have like an in-house programmer.
We have in-house IT staff. That we have tailor-made, Windows images, depending on what the philosophy use of the machine is going to be. But ultimately, there's still a lot of work involved with setting them up.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're about done here with the actual setup. We've got this one last feature update for Windows. Beyond that, it's just going in and downloading Chrome, any utilities that we want to put on here. And then at this point, I go ahead and test everything, get it listed for sale. And then if I have a customer that's serious about wanting to buy it, in the past they've said, hey, can you get me this software legally, of course. I don't put pirated software on machines. Then at that point, then I'll see if what I can source it for and install whatever they need. And in that way, when they can get it, they can test it out, make sure it works properly, and then they know they're taking home a machine that works. And then they don't have to go buy software too. So a lot of times it's just something simple like Microsoft Office. Sometimes they're doing video editing, they might want something else.
So does it conclude the build for today?
Well, it's not concluded talking about the side panel on. I do want to let everybody see. I want to let everybody see what it looks like with the side panel on.
Pull the side cam for us.
Sure, I have to put my fingers in this plastic here. I'll wipe everything down with the microfiber.
Yeah.
There we go.
And the thumb screws.
Yeah, I put the thumb screws in there, but you can see like that.
I
That
like
G-Force
how-
logo coming
oh,
through
man.
there. That's pretty sick, right?
That's nice. I love how this just shows just that.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Let's see if you can really kind of get down here and. There we go. So you can see like the CPU cooler through there. You can see the graphics card. Now, one thing I don't usually do, I don't usually put a light kit in it just because this is more of like, this is made for economy. You know, this is supposed to be something that's affordable, that's still very powerful, that people can game on. Now, if people bring me the light kit or they want me to add it, I'm happy to do it. It's just 50 extra bucks that you don't necessarily have to spend. Alright, so put the thumb screws in here. And then at this point, you know, I'll take all the spare parts that came with the case, documentation that came with the new parts, like the fans, the power supply, CPU cooler, all that stuff. I pack all that up in the power supply or motherboard box, and I try to give a build sheet too to everybody. That way, if they ever have to bring it back for upgrades or they ever want to refer back to what's in it, they'll have something with the specs on it.
All right.
That wraps it up, man. Sorry I took too much of your time.
No, not at all. Very glad for you to come by. Really appreciate you spending your time with us.
I'm glad you had me. This was really cool, and maybe one day we can do it again, and I'll be a little bit better prepared next time.
Oh, this is good, man. All right, you guys, thanks for watching the stream today. You guys could follow Jeff and his builds at Instagram.com/JJJ_PC. Again, that's Instagram.com/JJJ_PC. And you also have a Facebook page, which is
So on Facebook, let me pull it up. I think it's called J3 PC and Repair on Facebook. Let me see here. Yeah, it's called. If you look it up on Facebook, it's called J3 PC and Repair.
Okay, if you guys could find J3 PC and Repair on Facebook by just putting in search, and you guys could follow him and his adventures in Charlotte to spread the love of computers for everybody.
Absolutely, that's the main thing. That's the main thing we're looking to do.
Yeah, trying to build this community. So you guys, we'll have a stream later this year for more computer builds, and you guys could follow on the DJ screen. Hey, Caden. How do you say that? Oh, it's Caden Lee. Hey, Caden Lee. We're about to sign off on our stream, but you guys can always follow the stream, and then the next stream will keep you guys updated on these cool new builds and tech talk. Here is the Instagram on the chat, and then we're gonna sign off. Is there anything you would like to say to the audience before we head out?
No, I appreciate you having me. This has been really cool. Like I said, next time I'll kind of have an idea on how I want to do things. Maybe try to. I think next time what I'll probably do, I'll probably knock out the wire management part initially, just because I think that took a lot of unnecessary time.
It's okay to spend time on components like that.
Yeah.
People want to see like what does it take. So don't think that as like it's a time spender. No, like. You know,
it was
takes.
Cool to talk about, have all the side discussions though, and talk about other things. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here and try this out. This was really cool.
Yeah. All right, you guys have a good evening. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys tonight on my game stream. And Jeff, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.